I really hate the term Latinx. Honestly, it's just like the title says, I really hate the term Latinx. How are you going to change part of my language because you think it's oppressing women and non-binary people? The fact that our language has male and female endings doesn't hurt anyone, because the people know better. It only looks more ridiculous when this is being done without the majority approval of the people who it applies to. No, being woke and fighting cultural norms isn't a valid justification to change it, it's only a disguise for whitewashing. I get that it is a way for non-binary people to be included in gendered language, but having a blanket term replace a blanket term isn't how you fix things. The fact that it's being pushed by a lot of white scholars only makes it worse because it's these rich people deciding for the general population. If I call myself Latino, and you correct me and say Latinx, fuck you. If the thought of it is to help people with their identities, I get to decide how I'm called, not you. Woke people as a whole needs to stop using this term. The research that this term is gaining popularity is wrong. More recent studies show almost unanimity amongst the people you try to be the savior for don't want this. Stop using it. What's funny is that all the Romance languages have the same thing. A different ending for based on whether the word is masculine or feminine, but they don't have to add an X. I have no idea what it actually means. I will admit that when I first heard the term, I thought it was a band of some kind. It sounds pretty weird to me. It's a perfect example of linguistic imperialism. An actual Latin person or speaker or any Romance language understands that the male form also functions as the gender-neutral form of a word. Much like saying to a group you guys vs you girls. One is neutral, even though it uses a masculine word, one is not. The idea of Latinx is only pushed in English-speaking countries. In actual Spanish, Portuguese, etc., speaking countries, the word does not exist because it has no need to. The idea that we need to police how another culture's language functions is absolutely idiotic. Also, isn't it kinda oppressive/cultural supremacist to force your language norms on other languages? Plus, there's the risk of accidentally pronouncing it like Latinx and inadvertently offending someone as a result. If you must change a word to something more gender neutral, at least follow the grammar rules for that word's language. No dude. A bunch of white woke assholes know what's best for you. I agree. If you say Latinx in Spanish it sounds ridiculous, and all nouns are masculine or feminine, so you would have to change the whole language to use it. Also, names are gendered, so by the logic used to make Latinx, we should call non-binary people things like Alejandrix or Camilx. This is a very popular opinion. I thought people were talking about a big cat from south of the border. I'm a native English speaker, so I don't know if I have a say in this, but I agree. People shouldn't try to change a whole other language just because they don't like it. That's not their place. I've heard/seen people use Latin as an alternative to Latinx. Apparently it's more accurate to the language. I don't know, I'm British woman shrugging. As a Latino, I absolutely hate that term, it just looks stupid. BTW, I actually grew up in Latin America, I'm not one of those American Latinos who don't even speak Spanish properly. Latin America is very culturally conservative, so most people there would find the term Latinx very stupid. Another Spanish speaker here: how am I supposed to pronounce the word Latinx in a Spanish conversation? The letter X doesn't work the same way in Spanish, and it would sound quite jarring to pronounce it the woke English way in the middle of a Spanish sentence. How am I supposed to pronounce words like LXS, hijx, or manzanx at all, in any language? Whoever had the bright idea of Latinx obviously didn't account for the fact that the gendered endings of words in Spanish are vowels, and just replacing those vowels with a consonant, in a language that doesn't do well with consonant clusters, in a language in which the letter X doesn't even work the same way, is a bad idea, and an impossible way to speak. Anyone who knows anything about Spanish, Portuguese, or probably any other Romance language would know that Latin would make a lot more sense as a gender-neutral word ending. And guess what? That's exactly what some people are advocating for in Argentina. But why would the woke, white, liberal Americans listen to people that actually know the language before completely revising a core feature of it. I honestly don't care, and I say this as a native Spanish speaker. I'm not Latina, so I'm not in the conditions to tell if saying Latinx is offensive or not, but Spanish is my mother tongue and what I speak every day at my environment, so I have a say in all this inclusive language. If we are gonna be inclusive, I prefer using E instead of X, and sometimes it even comes naturally, like, instead of saying guapos I'll say guaps, and instead of saying chicos I'll say chicas. I don't even force it, but I leave it to the person I'm talking to. You prefer I say Latinos? I'll do it. You feel more included with Latins? I'm okay too. It's not something I really give a second thought to since language evolves. I speak normal Spanish, but I wouldn't care if it had to be with an E instead of masculine plural. I'm not educated, but I assume this is people accusing Latino of being sexist because of having O at the end. Great logic, Twitter. I think the most glaring thing to me about it is that it doesn't offer a solution, it just slightly dismantles a foreign language by inserting an arbitrary character in the place of its grammar. It's like walking up to a working car, saying, "This oil filter isn't quite right," and removing it, but not offering a better one in return. It's very culturally colonial, and comes from the same misguided progressivism that takes offense at terms like fire retardant. It's the evangelical version of social reform, beating people over the head with its dogma while entirely missing the point of its teachings. Speaking as a Spanish teacher, I might hate it even more than you do. It's not even pronounceable in Spanish, a 100% phonetic language. The correct pronunciation in English is also bad even by English standards. Basically no one uses this in Spanish, and if anyone does it they only do it in writing. The thing is, Spanish has multiple ways to use inclusive language. I actually think Latino is fine. The masculine form is traditionally used for neutral/unknown also, but for people who don't like it, Latin is actually used in Spanish and follow rules of phonetics in Spanish, and is still better than Latinx in English. It's clear this term was invented in English, because a word like this would never be made in Spanish. And that's basically linguistic imperialism, beyond just being an idiotic word to describe Spanish speakers. And for the record, I support inclusivity and would use whatever language people ask to describe themselves, within reason. Latinx is an example of trying to be inclusive, but not actually bothering to consult the people you're trying to include. I hate it. /edit, word choice for clarity /.